There's a certain kind of man who will reorganize your entire life without ever saying the words, I love you. He'll fix the problem you've been complaining about for months. He'll remember the offhand thing you said you needed and quietly make it appear. And then he'll go back to reading in the corner like nothing happened. Most people look at that and see someone who's distant, emotionally closed, hard to reach. But what if that's exactly backwards? What if the coldest looking man in the room is the one loving you the hardest? You just don't recognize the language. This is the INTJ. The personality type psychologists associate with strategy, logic, and an almost unsettling independence. And when this man loves you, it will rarely look like the love you were taught to expect. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how an INTJ shows love, the 7 signals hiding in plain sight, and why the man who seems least romantic might be the most devoted person you'll ever meet. Let's be clear about who we're talking about. The INTJ makes up somewhere around 2% of the population, and the female version is rarer still. Across every culture and every era, this is the person in the room who's watching more than talking. The one who solves the problem everyone else is still arguing about. The one whose inner world is enormous and almost entirely invisible. Carl Jung, the psychiatrist whose work MBTI is built on, described a type of person whose energy points inward, whose real life happens beneath the surface, in a private landscape most people never get to see. That's the INTJ, and it changes everything about how they love. Because for this man, love isn't a performance. It isn't flowers on schedule or words repeated because they're expected. Love is something he builds, quietly, deliberately, where you might not even think to look. We're going to go through 7 ways the INTJ shows love, starting with the one that surprises almost everyone. For the INTJ, love is a verb, and more specifically, it's a solution. When an INTJ cares about you, your problems stop being yours alone. They quietly become a project. The leaky situation you mentioned in passing, the thing you're dreading, the decision you can't make, he's already running it in the background of his mind, looking for the angle that makes it disappear. Psychologist Gary Chapman called this acts of service, one of the 5 love languages. But for the INTJ, it goes deeper than a category. This is a man whose entire mind is built to optimize, to fix, to improve. So when he loves you, he points that engine directly at your life. Making your world run smoother isn't a chore to him, it's a declaration. So if there's a man who never says much but somehow keeps removing the obstacles from your path, pay attention. He's not avoiding the words, he's replaced them with something harder to fake. But solving problems is just the surface. What's happening inside his mind while he does it? That's where it gets fascinating. The INTJ mind is almost always somewhere else. It's running strategies, replaying conversations, building models of how the world works. This is a man who lives several moves ahead, permanently half lost in thought. His attention is the scarcest thing he owns, which is exactly why it means so much when he gives it to you. When an INTJ loves you, he studies you. Not casually the way he studies everything that matters. He learns your patterns, your moods, the tells you don't know you have. Researchers who study intuitive thinkers describe a mind that pattern matches relentlessly, and when that mind turns toward a person, it becomes a kind of quiet devotion. He notices the coffee you switch to, the song you kept replaying, the thing you were upset about 3 weeks ago that you assume no one remembered. That is what INTJ attention looks like. He's not just present. He's collecting you carefully, permanently, the way most people never bother to. Now, here's where it gets more complicated. Because this kind of love comes wired to the future in a way that's easy to miss. Most people are taught to read love in the present tense, the big moment, the sweeping romantic scene. The INTJ doesn't think that way. This is a man who lives in the future who's always asking where something leads, whether it lasts, whether it's built to hold. So when he loves you, he isn't chasing a feeling, he's making a decision. And decisions for the INTJ are close to permanent. Psychologists who study long-term commitment distinguish between passion, which spikes and fades, and the deliberate loyalty that actually holds relationships together over decades. The INTJ is almost purely the second kind. He's not overwhelmed by you in the moment. He has chosen you as a conclusion, something he intends to keep being true. This is why his love can feel understated. There's no fireworks because he isn't performing a feeling, he's laying a foundation. He's thinking about the version of you that exists in 10 years and quietly building toward it. The grand gesture burns bright and burns out. What the INTJ offers is the opposite, a slow, unglamorous, unshakable staying. And this next part, this is where the people who love an INTJ get it most wrong. Here's something almost no one gets right about the INTJ. When this man starts poking holes in your plan, questioning your logic, telling you the thing you didn't want to hear, most people flinch. They feel criticized. They assume he's being cold or difficult or that he thinks he's smarter than everyone. But watch who he does it to. The INTJ doesn't waste honesty on people he doesn't care about. With strangers, he's polite and distant and gives them nothing real. It's the people he loves who get the truth, because in his mind, telling you what's actually true is the most respectful thing he can do. Think about what that costs him. It would be easier to nod and agree and keep the peace. Instead, he risks the friction, risks upsetting you, because he'd rather you have the real answer than a comfortable lie. Developmental psychologists note that genuine respect often shows up not as flattery, but as the willingness to engage with someone as an equal. The INTJ challenges you because he takes your mind seriously. So the next time he questions you, instead of just soothing you, understand what you're really seeing. That's not him thinking less of you. That's him refusing to hand you anything less than the truth. If you're the kind of person who actually thinks about the people in your life this way, not just how they act, but what's driving it underneath, and you're still here, that tells me something about you. It would mean a lot if you hit subscribe. We put out videos like this every week, real psychology, explained in a way that actually makes sense for real people. Now let's get to the part almost no one ever sees. Every INTJ builds a wall. It goes up early, and it goes up high. Behind that wall is his real self, the doubts, the intensity, the strange private thoughts, the feelings he doesn't have easy words for. Almost no one is ever allowed past it. He spent his whole life learning that the inner world is safest kept hidden. So here's what people miss. When an INTJ lets you see something real, when he tells you a fear, admits he was wrong, shows you the unguarded version underneath, that is not a small moment. For him, it's enormous. He is handing you the one thing he protects above everything else. Psychologist Elaine Aron's work on sensitive, deeply processing people helps explain this. Under the composed exterior, the INTJ often feels intensely he's just built a fortress around it because that intensity felt unsafe to show. Letting you in means lowering the one defense that's kept him steady his entire life. This is the part that gets mistaken for coldness the most. People wait for a flood of open emotion and never get it. But they're watching the wrong thing. Don't measure his love by how much he pours out. Measure it by how much he lets you see, because for him, a single crack in that wall costs more than 100 easy words. But where did the wall come from in the first place? To understand that, we have to go back to the beginning. No one is born behind a wall. Somewhere early on, the future INTJ learned a lesson that shaped everything after. He learned that his feelings were often too much, or too strange, or simply not understood. That when he reached out emotionally, it didn't land the way it did for other kids. So his brilliant, pattern-seeking mind drew the logical conclusion and started routing love through something safer than words. Developmental psychologists who study attachment describe how children adapt to their emotional environment when open expression isn't met. Some children learn to internalize, to self-rely, to build a world within. For the INTJ, that inner world became a fortress and a workshop at the same time. A place to stay safe and a place to build the love he couldn't say out loud. So when you meet a grown INTJ who shows love through actions instead of words, you're not looking at someone who doesn't feel. You're looking at someone who felt so much, so early, that he had to find another way to carry it. The distance isn't the absence of love. It's the shape love took when the direct route stopped feeling safe. Which brings us to the last one, and honestly, the most important. Here's the truth about INTJ love that makes all the rest of it worth it. He does not fall into love. He decides on it. And because it's a decision weighed, tested, thought through from every angle, it doesn't evaporate when things get hard. The INTJ isn't loyal because of a feeling that might fade tomorrow. He's loyal because he committed, and to him, a real commitment is closer to a law of nature than a mood. Once you're inside his wall, you're not a guest. You're part of the structure. He will defend you without being asked, plan around you without being thanked, and keep showing up in 100 quiet ways long after the excitement of the beginning is gone. Psychologists studying enduring bonds find that the relationships that last aren't the most passionate ones. They're the ones built on chosen, consistent commitment. That is the INTJ's native language. So yes, he'll forget to say the words, he'll be awkward with the romance, he'll show up with a solution when you wanted a hug. But underneath all of it is something most people spend their whole lives searching for and never find. Someone who chose you on purpose and has absolutely no intention of ever unchoosing you. So the next time you meet a man who fixes everything and says almost nothing, the one who seems too cold, too logical, too far away to really love anyone, look again. You might be looking at an INTJ, a man who shows love not with words but with his time, his focus, his relentless problem solving, and the rare, costly act of letting you see what's behind the wall. A man whose love doesn't shout because it was never built to. It was built to last. He isn't emotionally unavailable. He's emotionally encrypted, and the people who take the time to learn his language get access to a kind of devotion that most people never even come close to. Because when an INTJ loves you, he doesn't just feel it. He builds his whole life around it, quietly, where you almost can't see, and then he keeps it there, on purpose, for as long as you'll let him. If you want to go deeper on the mind behind all of this, I put together a video on the INTJ personality, the cold genius everyone misunderstands that I think will hit just as hard. It's right here when you're ready.